with me having to relearn, reprocess, rethink what sex was, that was like taking a part of my identity away.
Just because you may need to seek help or you may be in transition and things may not be right, it doesn't necessarily mean that your marriage is bad.
Marriage is a roller coaster ride that never ends.
From the twists of having children, to the turns of overly involved parents, or the highs of buying a new home, to the lows of unexpected lifestyle changes.
Marriage is dope, but let's be honest, fam. Marriage really be tiring.
Welcome to the Left Hand Gang podcast, hosted by Jazz and Spoon.
Yo, what's good? It is the Left Hand Gang. Hey, baby.
What up, gang?
What up, baby?
What up?
What up?
What's good?
Girl, you fine.
Thank you.
You fine.
Thank you, baby.
Man, I really don't want to go where I'm finna go tonight.
Come on.
So I can hang out with you. You know, I just want to be hip to hip. That's it.
Okay. Sir, get out of there. Come on back.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry. I just looked at my wife. My bad. But man, we hope y'all are good. I know that y'all are probably out here going crazy, shopping and whatnot, getting ready for Christmas. So y'all be safe out here in these Christmas streets, man. Don't get yourself in trouble. Stay safe, all of that good stuff. Whoo, man. So before we even get into this episode, y'all may hear maybe a piano or a loud yarn or somebody just yelling in the back. You know, that's Kai. He's over in his room, but you know, obviously we got the door open so we can keep an eye on him, and I can't even see him. I can see the top of his head right now. But yeah, so just FYI, you may hear baby in the back, but you know, that's parenting. What you gonna do, we gonna do. So got that out the way. Baby,
what's up?
Oh, I was finna go there. The spirit of Trillville almost came on me.
Trillville.
Oh my goodness. What you want to talk about? Well, not what do you want to talk about, but what do we got planned for today?
So what was on our heart is marriage and ministry.
Marriage and ministry.
So that's what we're talking to y'all about today.
So like whenever you think of marriage and ministry, do you see any overlap? Do you see any similarities? Obviously there are differences, but what kind of comes to mind with that?
Well, I think of a ton of things actually that I would say are mostly attributed to this book that I'm reading. And it's like 10 tips for wives in ministry, something like that. I think I butchered it. But I think there's a lot of overlap. One, I mean, marriage is essentially an example of Christ's love for the church.
Right,
like
exactly.
It literally is a mirror of that. So off top, it's already like there's a lot of overlap there.
Yeah.
But I think that ministry is important because, you know, a lot of times people our generation
Told y'all.
He's having a great time on his playmat, y'all. Our generation has like neglected the idea of fellowship and community. And you hear a lot of people that say, you know, well, I don't have to go to church to be a Christian. Right. Which is true. You do not have to go to church to be a Christian, but there's more to being a Christian than just going to church or just saying I'm a Christian. And so as individuals, but also as a married couple, I think that it's important. There's a lot of overlap because it's important for you to fellowship with other married couples and other believers. And as the head of a household, you need to be under your covering for sure. I mean, as a wife, I for sure need to be, you know, communing with God on my own. I need to have a relationship with Christ and other wives and other women. But how can you lead me and how can you lead us as a family if you don't check in with nobody? You don't have a pastor over you.
Exactly.
You don't have no like there's no authority that you report to in a sense. Sense. And I think that's very important.
No, I mean you just cracked this thing all the way open.
But I don't know if it was really understood, so we can really go into that.
Because like whenever you say that our generation and even the generations after don't really feel the need to go to church or be in fellowship to feel a part, to be a part, to feel the love of Christ, this, that, and the third. The thing is with that, we were not created by God to do this walk alone.
Right.
We were not created to do this by ourselves.
Otherwise, he would have just created Adam and been like, okay.
Right. And then on top of that, I mean, we see an example of us doing it together with Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus, he went and got 12 dudes.
Right.
And they moved this thing along, and they, you know, developed the church through Jesus. And I mean, not only that, I also want to say, even though Jesus chose 12 disciples who were later ordained, elevated as apostles, he also had women who were very influential in his ministry. You know, Mary, Martha, and so on and so forth. So there's so many things that were needed, that were necessary to create, establish, develop the church. And it involved people working together. Paul says it a lot of times. I mean, in Ephesians alone, I mean, all of Ephesians, but talks about unity, uniformity, and there's a difference between unity and uniformity, not necessarily meaning that we're the same.
Right.
Or we have the same capabilities, but we work in harmony. We work together. Our differences actually, when you put them together, make us more influential, make us more powerful. We can get more done. And so the interesting thing is, if we kind of spin that and make it more contemporary, like, community has changed now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, with like social media, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're both learning right now.
Yeah.
That social media is... although people are distant, they're still close, just not physically in terms of proximity. But we have different things like groups that we can create. We can follow people and block them at the same time. It's kind of weird. We can take a break from people, like, you know, which on one end is very positive, but on another end, it's not so much, because it teaches us that we could just block people or turn people off and we'll never have to deal with them again. Whereas with us, I mean, fam, I don't like you, but I kind of sort of got to deal with you, and I got to learn how to tolerate people, and I have to learn, in a sense, to love them through that, whatever this difficult time or challenge or process is. Because a lot of people don't know how to have relationships in general. It's like, if one thing goes bad, then the whole entire relationship is done for. But how do you know the strength of the relationship or the friendship that you have if y'all don't go through anything? If y'all don't go through a situation, come out on top and learn about one another? Like, oh, this is why you were pissed off. I understand how what I said was blah, 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 blah. Now I can tell you about what you did, what you said, and how that made me. So we get to converse, talk about it, et cetera, et cetera. I can ramble on and on and on with that. I really can. But we need each other. You know, we need each other. We do. What's going on in your head?
I'm just processing the things you said. I think that you can spin that different ways.
There's so many ways, right?
Especially when you talked about, you know, like, how do you know the extent of your friendship if you haven't gone through something? I'm not going to go there, because it literally is going to take us completely off, and that's not where we are. But I understand the point that you are making. And when you talked about social media, like, I started thinking about how social media is really cool. Like, it's really dope, and it's a very useful tool. And in fact, I'm learning that Gen Z really utilizes social media as their way of connecting with one another. Like, to them, that is connection. There's no problem with that. Like, that's how they message one another, because apparently texting isn't all that cool anymore. That's considered old to a lot of Gen Zers, if you didn't know that.
We just learned too.
I just learned that. So Snapchat, DMs on Instagram, like, that's kind of their lane. And so for especially the generation that's coming up, social media makes them feel close. Therefore, watching ministry on TV makes them feel like they are a part, and they don't see the disconnect. Like, it's all, you know, like, I'm there in my mind or in their mind. And my heart is a little burdened for that mindset, for people with that mindset, just because I have seen the benefit of not being a part of Bedside Baptist, and I have seen the benefit of what it truly means to be in the house of God, and it's nothing like it. Like you can't supplement that with watching it virtually. You can't supplement that with, I just message people to stay in contact with them. Like, you need that one-on-one. You need that press. Facts. And that push to be at church. And I think that it's so important for, especially because it's so important for us to get in church. I've seen these posts, and they'd be like, yo, we the adults now, who finna be the new pastors, right? Who finna lead us? Wait a minute, hold on. Like, the Thanksgiving posts have really taken me out, because I feel that they're like
that's us. We're the ones making the mac and cheese. We're responsible for the turkey.
They asking me to bring something. I can't just show up. Like, what? That graduation is really messing me up. But we're not prepared to be disciples. We're not prepared to be leaders, because we have literally sat church on the shelf. And I know that people have done that for different reasons. I know that there are a lot of people who have been hurt by people in the church or by leadership in the church. And I get that completely. I just feel that that's where discernment comes in. That's where a prayer life comes in, so that you can make sure that you're connected to the right leadership, the right pastor, and you're getting exactly what you need for your spirit.
And, you bring up a very good point with being connected to a certain ministry or whatever. And one of the dope things about social media is you get to, as it relates to ministry anyways, you kind of get to shop a little bit, because everybody's live streaming at this point. If you're not, you behind, fam. Like, I don't know what you doing. You talk to your finance committee about a budget for live streaming, get it together. But that is how most people are shopping for churches, and they don't have to worry about going to a church, being the only new person there, and it's a small ministry, and the pastor says, would you like to say anything, or calls you out. We don't have to worry about that type of social anxiety. Kind of got triggered there myself. But that is a cool thing. You also mentioned about how certain people have been hurt by people in the church. Now, notice what I said there, hurt by people in the church. God doesn't hurt people. Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, does not hurt people. Unfortunately, he does have representatives that do. And so we have to be very prayerfully led, like Jasmine was saying, have a strong prayer life, and discerning whether the pastor hurt us or God hurt us. Because many of us, we are very guilty of taking our feelings out on God based off of what one of his representatives do or have done. And let's just be honest, some of us have been those representatives. I can, I can definitely tell on myself in a way where, I was a representative that was very judgmental towards a certain group of people. And so I hurt people being judgmental when I ain't got no heaven or hell to put nobody in. So we got to be careful with that type of mindset. And I believe, that really is why a lot of people feel like they could just do this Jesus thing by themselves, because of God's representatives hurting others, hurting people.
Yeah, I think that's also because there's this so you run into false humility among people, but you also run into this idea that for some reason we think Christians are perfect. And we're not. We really are not, bro. That's why we gotta
That's why we gotta go.
That's why we gotta go together.
We have to go.
And in our ministry, people in the ministry, they push me to be better. My pastor pushes me and pushes me out of my comfort zone. And, I see how others lead and how others serve, and even hearing their testimonies, and that pushes me to be better.
Yeah, as it should. Hey, big man, y'all hear him in the back. But and that's one of the dopest things about ministry. especially whenever you're in a ministry where you feel pushed to be better. You feel pushed to read scripture. Now you feel pushed, not forced.
Yeah.
But you feel pushed, or I guess the better word is provoked. Like, man, I want to be able to understand the word of God better. I want to be able to pray more specifically, not necessarily longer, just being more specific in the way that I pray. I want to be able to share what the scriptures mean to other people whenever they ask me about God, about Jesus, about certain things in his word. Like, I want to be able to share those things, because the word of God tells us to study to show yourself approved.
Yeah.
Like, and we have so many different ways. It's like, yo, we got podcasts we can listen to. We got so many different Bible commentaries that we can go to. We got Google University. Like, we have all these different resources that we could tap into to expand on our expand in our relationship and our education in God. And a lot of those things, again, it all goes back to us being able to utilize each other or being connected to a community. But all those things were created by other believers for us to be connected to learn more about, et cetera, et cetera.
In us talking about, like that we'll run into people with false humility and, that Christians aren't perfect. I think it's important to just know that you're going to run into opposition regardless in the ministry, in church, in life in general. I mean, you are not perfect yourself. You run into opposition. You are opposition for other people.
You're so right.
I am opposition for my husband sometimes. So, no church is perfect.
That's real.
And everybody in the church is not going to be perfect, including the leader.
Yeah.
But I think that's where having your own relationship with God and being able, one, to discern like your leadership. I'm not saying, that this leader is not, a poor leader or is making, sinful decisions and stay under them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, is it just their humanity and, it's something that maybe you disliked, or is this something that's, going against the word or going against what God has said to us to do? So you have to be able to discern that, first of all. But if you're in the right place, not letting people deter you from where you're supposed to be, and understanding how to pray and having your own relationship with God. Because if I constantly looked at the people, I would definitely not be in church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how do you do ministry? How do you serve other people? Like, everybody that comes into the church is not perfect, including yourself.
Yeah.
So that, for me, I think that's what has helped me, is understanding, like, that's just, in a sense, a part of the game.
Yeah.
Like, that's just real. And I think that us being in church regularly, even before you became a minister, there was just this push for us to be, to be there. Hey, sometimes it was hungover from the night before. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I had the time of my life the night before, but I was at church. Sunday.
I was there.
And progressively that changed, right? My Saturday night started looking a lot different.
Right.
But for us to stay together, you needed something, I believe, to fuel you.
Yeah.
Fuel you. And I needed something to fuel me. And, we have our own relationship with God separately. And then we have a relationship with God together.
Right.
And I believe that going to church helps kind of complete that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that in, because whenever you have your own personal relationship with God, that also comes with responsibilities for God. Because my relationship with God, obviously, it deals with my salvation from the jump. Like, that's bare minimum.
Right.
But then from there, it's the things that God requires for me to do, which is the same requirements for everybody else. Go and make disciples. However, the way that I go about making disciples is completely different from how he requires you to do that. And so one of the ways that he has me do that is obviously by preaching the word, by proclaiming the gospel. And because based off of how I articulate the word, I share the word, I communicate the word, it's God who does it through me to pull on or to provoke the hearts of the listeners. And so I can provoke the heart of somebody 10 weeks from now based off of a message I preached 10 weeks ago because of the media era that we're in. So I can reach somebody through preaching and proclaiming the gospel through a YouTube video. And so, but me preaching, there's preparation that's involved, there's studying that's involved, there's prayer and fasting and meditation, there's talking with other ministers and other preachers, other people, just to get an idea of the direction that I want to go and what's on my heart. And so there are so many things that pull on me ministry wise that I have to also just be able to discern, okay, I need to step back here so that way I don't pull too much from my house. I don't pull too much from Jasmine. I don't take away from my time with Kairos. And so sometimes what we see a lot of times are the responsibilities that God has given certain people, pulling away from their households, pulling away from their friendships, pulling away from their personal lives. And that's a lot of times because we haven't really discerned correctly or properly how to set up those boundaries.
That's good. I think about how the word talks about us being sheep, right? And essentially for our leader, and when I say leader, I mean like your bishop, your pastor, your apostle, whoever, the senior pastors of your ministry, we are their sheep.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing for us because there's a covering there. There's a protection there. That is a very hard thing for a senior pastor. You have all these sheep that you are responsible for. Like, they are responsible for our souls, and they are responsible for praying for us when we don't know about it. Some of the sins and things that, not everything that we do, but some of the sins and things that we do, that we commit, falls on them, depending on, like the extent of it. But they are responsible for us. And so I say all that to say that there's something beautiful in knowing that I have a covering. I have someone that's praying for me. I have someone that if God tried to knock on the door and talk to me and I kept closing the door, my pastor is probably the next person that he's going to talk to. If he didn't talk to my husband, or, you know what I mean? Like, if nothing's getting through to me, he might talk to my pastor so that my pastor can pull me aside, or my pastor can pray for me. And I think that when you step outside of that, just like we talked about in another episode, that alignment, you know, like when the husband steps out of line, it throws everything off because things are not properly in place. And it's the same thing with ministry. When you step out of that covering, you just out here for attack. You just out here for whatever, and you aren't always properly equipped because you may not have been putting in the time that you needed to for your own salvation. And I lost where I was going next, but that was essentially it.
It'll come back.
It'll come back.
It always does. Maybe not during the episode, but it does always come back. But with you saying, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So like, it makes me think about, when we talk about covering, think about like a eulogy. Okay. And I think about like how we were accustomed, I would say we were accustomed to just old people passing. Like, it always seemed like your old aunt or your old grandma or like, people who were older were passing away. And now it's like death has no age.
Yeah, everybody can get
Everybody can get it. Like, literally from young to old, we're seeing it doesn't matter. Are passing away. And I think that I was accustomed to there always being a pastor. Like, the person that passed, that older person, they always had somebody to do the eulogy. It wasn't like you had to look, or like, they were in church and you just knew, such and such
Google
is going
to pay somebody that you don't know.
They just knew, like, this person's going to minister at their funeral. But nowadays, I think about it like, if you're not in church and you were to pass away, is your mom's pastor going to do it? Your dad, your friend, your cousin? Okay, so what if your circle, y'all don't have a pastor? Yeah. So now we're like looking for someone to deliver your eulogy. Yeah. And
that doesn't even know you.
That doesn't know you. They can't speak. They can't even speak about you. They can't. They can comfort the family, but like they're literally just doing something to check it off a list.
Because they have no buy-in with that person.
None. And it's almost unfair spiritually because they're almost like held accountable in a sense, and it's like they didn't even know you, like they can't even answer to God on your behalf, you know. So that's something I thought about this week, and I was like, man, I don't want people to have to search for someone to deliver my eulogy. I want the leader that I've served under to be able to speak to my family on my behalf, and to comfort them, and to be able to speak to the integrity that I have and know me.
And that goes the same thing with marriage and weddings.
Yes.
Like, I want the officiant to know me, know my future spouse. Yeah. So that way they feel comfortable, and they have talked to God and have gotten approval from God to marry us.
Because it's a covenant. Because
we are going into a covenantal relationship. We are going into an agreement. And, you know, I mean, I ain't knocking nobody, you believe what you believe, you do what you do. But, you know, I've DJ'd my fair share of weddings. And, you know, there's this one wedding I had DJ'd, and the officiant, they found her somewhere on, I don't know, some website, or I don't know, I think it was like The Knot or something. But like, you could tell that there was no relationship between the officiant and the bride and groom. And so how can you officiate a wedding when you don't even know who's getting married? Like, you don't know them, know anything about them, know anything about their families. There's really not much you can pray for. There's not much that you can, you can give them some surface level tips, some surface level advice, but like, I'm glad that we had a pastor who was like, well, y'all need to do this. I don't think you should do that because blah, 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 because there's history there. Yeah. There's history there. And so that relationship with an overseer, be it pastor, bishop, apostle, whatever, like, it even goes deeper into like business decisions. I have this job opportunity, and I don't know if it's the right one. So I need you to be in prayer with me. I need you to be a good advisor, for me with this. There's some people who are willing to invest in this project that I got going on. I'm not 100% sure, so I need you to be in prayer for it, because I understand and I trust the relationship that I have with you, and I also trust your relationship with God, because if you have led me up to this point, I haven't failed. I've been doing fine. You've always imparted wisdom into me. I trust your advice. I trust your wise counsel with this decision. Like it we only want to go to higher authority in ministry whenever it comes to coming out of a situation. I want to be delivered from something, but I want us to shift our thinking too with, okay, I have this next move, and there are a lot of people who are involved with it. It could be very beneficial, but I need you to be in prayer for it, because if you tell me no, I trust what you are saying.
Ooh, not a lot of people are willing to do that.
And that's real. Like I have, like, I can speak to it because I've done it. And, amen.
Yeah.
The pride alone. But yeah.
So when you were talking about, like having a spiritual leader, or not necessarily spiritual leader, but having someone who knows you as a couple to officiate your wedding, I would say, I just want to clarify, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case for marriage counseling, I feel. Right. Because like we went the route where we went with our pastor, someone who did know us. But I don't think in counseling period, I don't think you always have to go to someone who knows you. I think that you discern there what's best for you. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And that last point that you made, oh my gosh. It sounds like he's saying dada, but it's more of a b sound and not a d. But it is giving close.
He's saying something.
I thought about how we always want to go to the pastor when we need them for something that we want them to sign off on as a yes. Obviously, we don't want to know, or when we need their prayer and their covering, like because we're going through something, but I think sometimes we also don't understand that as our pastor, their job is to check us.
Yep, pull our chain.
Their job is to say no sometimes. And I don't think, especially in our generation, we want to hear that.
Not at all.
Because we came, we have so much freedom, and we were taught, like, go to college, be your own boss, and do all the things, right?
Yep.
And
don't take no for an answer.
Don't take no for an answer.
Glass ceilings and everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
So why would I go to this? Why would I stay in this church and the pastor told me I can't such and such. I can't serve on this team, or I can't, or I need to sit down, or like they sat me down.
Right.
A lot of times when people tell that story, nobody asks, what did you do, sis?
What did you do? Nobody
asked that. They be like, what? Like, dang, I'm sorry. Like, nah, my pastor wouldn't have done that. Or that was wrong of them. And maybe the way that they did it, I do, again, we have to look at humanity and all that. Like there's a way to do things. But I think that we need to understand that, especially in this time and age, we've been just running wild, and we need a couple like yanks on the
come
chain.
on back,
come on back, come on, and sit down.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's talked about hardly ever.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that, and I think that that's really important.
Yeah.
Because there is order in a church. Should be. There is a chain of command in a church, and there should be. And we don't want to submit ourselves under that.
Right.
We have more freedom, and I can do God on my own and not have to have that responsibility.
Yep. Because it's it's that whole, if I can do this, well, we take it's a church word, carnal. It's a carnal mindset, thinking if I can do it in the world and then it works this way, it works in my job, it works at home, it works with my family, it worked whenever I got the business loan, and it worked when I did this, and it worked so it has to work in church. It has to work in the house of God. Whereas where we don't understand is whenever you go into any kind of ministry, we know that not all churches are the same.
Right.
You have to understand the mandate that church is under.
That's so good.
Because some of us, taken, as Jesus said, we've taken new wine and poured it into old wineskins.
That's so good.
Because how I did it at my other church, they allowed me to do this. They allowed me to do that.
Wow.
Well, that's because it was fitting in that ministry for you to do that. Now that you have been moved, you may have got a new job and a new location, you moved somewhere. Now you're in this different ministry. It's different here.
Yeah.
This ministry, yes, they understand that preaching is very important, but they're more prayer led. They're more worship led. Maybe this other church is more educationally, theologically driven. And so they're going to do every single thing line by line, just like they do in the scriptures. So it's different. Not everybody operates the same. And so what that means is we have to show grace whenever we go into new places and spaces.
That was really good. Man, that was so good. Different locations, different mandates, different regions. Like, whew, that was really good.
To God. Glory be to God.
Yeah. So do you have any other final thoughts like about marriage and ministry that you want to throw out?
I guess more so encouragement, like for any pastors or preachers or whoever, up and coming, season, etc., especially if you're married. Your household is your first ministry. That is your first ministry. After you've taken care of the house, you can go take care of everything else. That also, because again, we also have to be shown grace in that by those who are around us. And so, but I cannot neglect my house for the sake of other folks. As admirable as that may be, I should not neglect. However, there's a conversation that needs to be had that we talk about, like, hey, this happened. I know it's 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Do I have your blessing to go? Do I have your blessing to be able to take care of this? There's this matter ministry wise. And so There's just needs to be conversation that needs to be had. But yeah, your house is your first ministry. If you ain't a pastor, if you're not a preacher, your house is still your first ministry.
Yeah.
You preach from this pulpit every single day, sir, ma'am.
That was good. I think mine is just to be led in prayer about what ministry to go to. I remember we had to do that, and just being transparent, the ministry that I desired. Well, okay, so we had just moved back. We were both looking for where we were supposed to be, and there was a ministry that we really wanted to attend and join even, but we wanted to just keep going, and figure out if that's where we were supposed to be. And when we started praying, I wasn't hearing nothing. I just knew what I wanted. But God told you where we were supposed to be.
He told me. He did.
I had to submit to the God in you and trust the God in you, even though that is not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Even though I hadn't heard anything, I could have said, well, let's just wait until I get mine. Wait until God tell me.
Yeah.
But when you said that, when you said what God told you, it was like an instant. Like, if I had said anything other than okay, I knew it was my flesh. Like, I knew for a fact what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so I would just say, don't always go for the place that's flashy lights or where everybody else is going. And maybe that is where you're supposed to go, where everybody else is going, but just be led in that. Know where you are supposed to be, because I learned that God puts in that leader or whoever is going to be over you, those leaders, puts in them everything that you need.
Everything.
Literally. Like, God knows where I want to plant you, what you need for this season, and I'm going to put it in them to be able to give to you.
Yep.
And I'm going to orchestrate things around that for you, for your good. And so that's just my piece. It's a small thing, but it makes a big difference.
That's really good, because He does. And everything that we've ever needed, we got.
Yeah.
We didn't get it all at once, though.
No.
But we incrementally got it.
Yes.
We did.
Yes.
Did you get it?
I got it. Did you get it?
I don't know. I think so, but I don't have no more words.
So you got it.
But it's still some more up in here.
Maybe it's a part 2.
Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
We'll see. We'll see. So, all right. Well, man, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all hanging out with the gang, man.
Hey.
Y'all, once again, y'all be careful out here in these Christmas shopping streets, man. Big shout out again to our sponsor, Vital Coffee. Vital Coffee Roasters. Yeah, vitalcoffeeroasters.coffee. Go to the website, but the promo code
is Vital Gang.
Vital Gang. Yeah, for your 10% off on your next order. So we love y'all. Y'all be easy. Peace. Thank y'all so much for tapping in with the Left Hand Gang podcast.
Be sure to follow, like, subscribe, and rate us.
And lastly, please don't forget to check out our website. That's lefthandgang.co for merch and ways to stay connected.
Catch you next episode.
Gang.